Nicole. Let's talk about it. Tell me all about it. I'm here. I want to know what's on your mind. Ooh, the world needs to hear from you, and I'm so glad to have a conversation to reach the nation. And it's all about you. We'll help each other to discover innovative ways to positively change the world. Let's talk about, let's talk about, yeah. Let's talk about conversations with Nicole.
Greetings. Welcome to Conversations with Nicole. I am Nicole Everett, your host. And Conversations with Nicole is a talk show focused on connecting the community through conversations. And today is what I call Mindset Monday, which is an opportunity for you, me, and my guests to chat about something interesting and intriguing. And today we are talking about the wealth gap and financial empowerment. My very special guest is no stranger to Conversations with Nicole, Miss Shanova Paul, who is what I consider a financial guru, a financial professional. And so I'm super excited and delighted to have her with me tonight. But before I bring her on, I need to hear from you. Where are you tuning in from? We are live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on my personal LinkedIn page. But I want to know where you're tuning in from. So in the comments, if you will, put your city and state so we can give you a shout out. Your comments, your questions are welcome. This is an interactive live. And so we absolutely want to hear from you. We're going to be talking about what is the wealth gap? What is the difference between wealth and income? And how does that all impact you? We're going to talk about it. So tag a friend, let them know they need to be on here. Tag them, share it, let them know. Y'all need to be on here. Y'all need to be on here. All right. I'm really hyped because I just left a generational wealth matters information session that me and Sheila Morris partnered on over at Signature Lounge, and it was absolutely fantastic. We had attorney Leon Jacobs, we had attorney Sydney Brown, we had the roaming clerk of course, Mr. Keith Rogers on. They were all panelists, and we talked about wills and trusts and probate and powers of attorney and healthcare surrogates and 5 wishes and intestate and all kinds of things that are some of the stuff I never heard of. So it was very, very interesting. Folks didn't want to leave. Mr. Willie set it out for us. We had sponsors. Shout out to our sponsors who enabled us to book the space and get the food going. But folks had a lot of questions, and we're going to do it again. It was such a great, engaging conversation that we said we're going to do a round 2. So we'll definitely keep you posted on that, and really want folks to get the information that they need so they can be well informed, so that they can be financially empowered, which is what we are going to talk about today. So I see a few folks have joined us. Steph Clark here in Tally. Thank you for being here, Steph. Miss Jeanette down in Miami Gardens. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're doing well, Miss Jeanette. All right, y'all just bear with me one moment because I was not ready, but I'm about to be ready in just a minute. And I have the updated bio. I think so right here. Oh, it is not pulling up for me readily. Here we go. There we go. Here we go. Here we go. Yes. All right. So Shanova's bio reads that she is a dynamic force in the world of personal finance and a true advocate for financial empowerment, especially for African American women ages 25 to 40. She's an author. I think the last time she came on the show, we talked about her book, but she's a proud graduate of the Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, Go Rattlers, where she earned her bachelor's degree in accounting and went on to complete her master's in business administration. With over 10 years of experience in corporate America, she's held leadership roles, including chief financial officer. So she knows her stuff when it comes to managing money, both personally and professionally. Coaching and courses focus on what she calls the 5 pillars of financial empowerment: budgeting, which is not a bad word; savings, which is also not a bad word; financial mindset, financial organization, and debt management. Through this framework, she specializes in supporting beginners and those ready to reset their financial journey with timeless, practical strategies that work in any economic climate. And boy, do we need that now, not just the ones trending on social media. Outside of the numbers, she's a proud mom to a standout Division I athlete who's set to graduate high school this year, whoop, whoop, and head to college on a full athletic scholarship, one of her greatest joys and proudest accomplishments. Look, I know that's got to be something to be very proud of. She's here to inspire, educate, and most of all, empower. So, y'all, let's give a warm welcome to Shanova Park.
Yay!
Welcome,
How
welcome.
are you?
I'm well. How about you?
I'm doing amazing. I'm so
Good.
glad to be back on the show. This is like almost my second home now. We locked in forever.
Yes, yes, we are, and I'm glad about it. I'm so glad about it. So, tell the people, who is Shanova Paul? Not what you do, but who are you?
Well, I am a daughter. I am a friend. I am a sister to my amazing siblings. I am a mom of a amazing child who will be graduating high school this year. So all of the high school senior parents, keep hope alive, stay in the fight. And so I am also a God girl. I definitely lead with my faith and all of my belief in everything that we do here, in the pillars. And I know you stated this in my bio, but I am a proud graduate of the Florida A&M University. Go Rattlers. And I just enjoy doing all the things, dancing and being out in nature. So I'm just super excited to be here tonight.
Nice, and super excited to have you. All right, so we got quite a few folks that are tuning in. So I want to make sure we acknowledge them. Miss Shanova Austin, looking forward to the next one. Okay, good. We'll definitely keep you posted. She's talking about the event that we had today, the Generational Wealth Matters event. Donda was just with me over at Signature Lounge. Thank you for joining us, Donda. Miss Keosha is here, tuning in from Tallahassee. Thank you so much. Tracy Gole, hey Tracy, and Siobhan's giving you a shout out. My mom is here. Thank you for being here, Mom, down in Miami. And B. Nicole, the realtor. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. All right. Oh, and Enigma said, Fee and I here. Thank y'all. Fee and E. Y'all some of my faves. They right here in Tallahassee. My girlfriend Sharice in Atlanta. Thank you for joining us, Sharice. Appreciate that so much. All right. So we are going to dive into this topic. Oh, wait a minute. We got somebody else. We love to see Shanova. So Celeste, LD, I'm not quite sure who that is, but maybe, they're giving you some love. So that's cool. All right. So we're going to dive into this topic, the wealth gap and financial empowerment. The wealth gap and financial empowerment. So I think we should start by just asking the viewers, like, when you hear the term wealth gap, what do you think of? What do you think? What do you think
That's an amazing question. I'm always interested to hear the answer.
of? When you hear the term wealth gap? What do you think of? What do you think of? All right. We got Joyce Ellenwood. Hey, bestie.
Hey, bestie.
Thank you for being here. All right. What do you think of when you hear wealth gap? I actually looked up wealth gap in terms of just kind of researching it. And it was quite interesting because there were several things that it talked about that were like race and ethnicity based, gender based. as well as real estate based, retirement based, and in terms of the differences in, for instance, with retirement, some people have more than others
Yeah.
based on certain opportunities that have been afforded to them. So let's see. Steph said difference in assets value among different demographic groups. Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. All right. Anybody else want to give a stab at it? Let us know what you think when you hear wealth gap. What do you think of? We got Robbie Burnett, the distance between poverty and wealth. Okay. Thank you for that. All right.
Yeah.
We got Joy. She said the gap between the money have and the quality and equity of the money I don't have. Okay. Nice. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Those are all really good. All really good. All right. Well, Shanovius.
Listen, I was interested to see what everybody would say because, to your point, depending on who you are and what you know about the wealth gap, it can mean something very different to
Mhm.
everybody. So I'm excited, one, to come on tonight to share what the wealth gap is so that everybody has a clear understanding of what it is so we know where to start. To also kind of tell you what you can do individually for yourself and your bloodline extended beyond just the family that you were born into and extending it to the one that you chose as well. Because for me, my bloodline extends to all of my sisters and all of my friends. They are a part of my bloodline. So tonight, I just want to make sure that we leave and we walk away with knowing what the wealth gap is and understanding what we can do individually to impact our community, our bloodline, and then ultimately close the gap. And so it's super important. It's an important topic, but if we want to do, I want to do a basic definition first, right?
Okay.
Before we get into like the high level of wealth gap and inequalities and all of those things, a very basic understanding of the wealth gap is if you can imagine yourself running a race and your shoe falls off at the beginning, you're
Mm,
already slightly behind, but you can't give up on the race. So
mm,
what you determine to do is you're going to put your shoe back on or you're going to run without it. That is maybe one or two different types of obstacles already in your way. You have to make a choice. Then after the choice, you have to catch up. And that's
mm.
what the wealth gap is. It is different inequalities, some based on race, some based on your economic status, some based on ethnicity, and even the smaller wealth gaps of just generation to generation, the
Mm,
gap in between you and your parents, and
mhm.
how you can build on what you may or may not have had in terms of information. And so, yes, the high level definition is making sure that wealth is about your assets and not necessarily about your salary and what you earn. And how do we decrease that gap in between?
Okay. So one of my questions was around wealth versus income. But income, I think, is not just relegated to salary, but it's cash flow, like what you have coming in, correct?
Correct. And so the difference between wealth and income, because people often use that term interchangeable when they're having a group discussion or a conversation, but they are very separate.
Mm,
The income is going to really boil down to what you're earning. So that's your salary. Those are wages that you may get through your entrepreneurship or through investments. All of those things are income, what you're bringing in the door. Once you extend to the wealth side of things, you're looking at your assets. So what do you own? What properties do you own? How do you decrease your debt? And how do you have a debt to income ratio? All of those things build up what a calculated wealth would be. And
okay.
so it's really it's important to understand that you can have money and with a lot of income coming in, but when you have the wealth, those are things that you can pass down for generations. You can pass down money, but money in, money out. But when
Mhm.
you pass down property and you pass down land and you pass down other things that are tangible, that those are things that we would consider to be wealth.
Okay, got it, got it, got it. We got a couple more folks that have joined us. I want to definitely just pause and acknowledge them. Miss Edwina Hall, tuning in late, but I'm here. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. And Miss Roz Wynn, both of whom are in Tallahassee. Thank you for being here, Roz. So, all right. So hopefully we are clear on wealth versus income. And wealth having to do with assets like property, land, that sort of thing. Income is like earnings, what you have coming in, right?
Right.
All right, good deal. CCB to Jewelry and Crafts, greetings. Thank you for being here. So, when we talk about the wealth gap, which again, Steph and Robbie and Joyce have given us some definitions. Um, let's dive a little deeper as it relates to that. We talk about the wealth gap, like you said, it could be based on race, based on gender, based on
Right.
generational, you know, your parents versus you or your grandparents versus you. So what are some of those wealth gap indices that maybe we can focus on and dive a little deeper into?
And so the wealth gap, it really stems back a very long way. I mean, it does go back into slavery, but
Mm,
there are so many different historical moments that has happened since slavery that has contributed to the gap. And so
okay.
you have the crash of the housing market. The
Hmm.
global pandemic brought on a wealth gap for some individuals because typically in the statistics, African Americans do not have enough money to sustain an emergency. And so during that time, a lot of debt was consumed. There were individuals who were losing their homes, unfortunately, and losing their jobs just due to the lack of preparation. And that's not to minimize the actual struggle of the pandemic because it was a horrible time for a
Right.
lot of individuals.
Mm,
However, statistically, African Americans struggled a little bit more during the pandemic than their other counterparts because we didn't have those emergency funds built in place and we didn't
mm,
have those other streams of income that we can pull on when we needed them the most. And
mm,
so while there are a lot of historical data points that will go back to slavery, go back to the housing market crash, go back to the pandemic, there are just things in life every day that we have to face that will give us an inequality. The best example that I can give if you're in your everyday life is going to be your salary.
mhm.
Right now, the wage gap, which is another wealth gap and inequality for women, is like this far. It's a lot, right? And there are some other inequalities that happen around salaries and wages for your household. But right now, the median says that 6 to 10 is the wealth gap between African American women and men in a
Mm,
white household. So they have 6 times more income than we do in order to sustain and to run their everyday life. And so you can see how that is a large margin
mm,
already in terms of just your average salary and what you're earning. And so
gotcha.
that creates a large gap that, you know, here in a little bit, we're going to talk about ways in which we can kind of minimize those gaps and what we can start to do that is practical that'll help us to get to a better space.
What about men versus women?
So in there are the best way to say it politically correct is, I mean, men often earn more money than women when it comes to their household incomes and the salaries that they earn. But the
Mhm,
studies behind that is not necessarily due to a wealth gap, is due to the confidence in the women asking for what they deserve.
mhm,
And
mm,
so we would like to say that men naturally just earn more than us. White males definitely earn more than African American women.
mhm.
However, there are a lot more statistics that show that they typically earn more because we shrink in rooms and we don't have the confidence to ask for what we're worth. And so,
Interesting. I was not expecting that answer, but okay.
yeah,
I received that.
I
So
mean,
y'all
there,
heard
I
that.
mean,
Y'all heard that, ladies. I know March was Women's History Month, and May is coming up. It's Women's Month. We need to be asking for what we want, right?
yes, absolutely. I mean, you have to go into a room and know that your skill set are valuable. What you bring to the table is valuable, and you can set those boundaries for yourself.
Yes.
Typically, yes, um, the African American male may make more than you, but it doesn't have to stay that way. It is definitely time to make a little bit of a shift in your ask.
All right, I heard that. All right, so folks are chiming in. All right, so Rod says she's here for the money. Jim's discussion. We got Kesey on with us. Thank you for being here. Robbie said, "Wow, 6 times white more income than us." Yes.
Yes,
Right. All right. Kesey said, "Amen, Robbie. We need to ask for what we want. Absolutely." And Rod said, "And we have to be okay leaving to go get what we deserve." Amen.
absolutely.
Mhm. Love it. All right. So salaries. So that's one piece of it, right?
Right. And the housing, of course, is one piece. There's a large wealth gap in the ownership in the housing market and the ownership of land, because sometimes we think ownership, we only think about a home, but owning the land is what's most important. So owning the home is great, but you have to pay your property taxes and own the land,
Mm,
because that's where the actual wealth lies. And doing the banking and taxation are another areas, in education. So those are kind of the primary areas that you want to focus on when you start to try to build a wealth gap or talk about the conversation,
mhm.
because each of those areas can really serve as its own conversation. And
Now,
so that's why it's a little hard for us to understand how do we get to the closing of the wealth gap, because
mhm.
every area has such a depth to where we need to grow in that area as a community.
So when you talk about, you mentioned banking, taxation,
Mhm.
education, would you consider those all to be separate aspects of the wealth gap as well?
They are separate aspects, but what's important to understand is once you accomplish one thing, you can't stop there. So it's great if you own a home and you own your land, that is amazing. That is something to celebrate. But oftentimes what we do is we get complacent once we've achieved this one thing, because a lot of us are the first in our generation to do it, the first in our bloodline to do it. And so
Mm,
after we accomplish that, we stop. So we
mm,
have the home and we settle in the accomplishment of the home. But what's important to do next is to build a business, to then
yeah.
hire staff. And then after you hire staff, to truly sit down with the tax accountant to take full benefit of your taxation benefits, right?
Mm, mhm.
It's an area that is not covered a lot. All of my friends and all of my clients who I work with, they will laugh to even hear me talk about tax, because I don't like to do taxes. It's not that I can't, I am really good at it. I just typically don't like to do it. But when I'm talking to individuals, it is the one thing that we miss a lot of gems in that area, because
Mm,
it scares us. We think that just doing the 1099 or your 1040 is enough. But as a business owner and the owner of your home, there are a lot of tax benefits that we should be taking advantage of.
mm.
It's just we don't have enough information, enough knowledge in front of us to understand what they are.
Gotcha. Okay. Wow. It sounds like we're gonna have to do a part two to this. We haven't even really touched on it. Like all we have done is touched on it. We haven't even dug deep at all. So I don't even, so help me out, because I really don't kind of know where to go. Because when I think about the homes and land piece, like one of the things that you and I talked about was in terms of like having your home appraised, right?
Mhm.
When you are getting ready to have your home appraised, um, you want to make sure you, how can I say? Uh,
You make your space neutral. That's a
yeah,
great way of saying it. You
that is
want to make
the
your
thing
space
that
neutral.
you want to make your space neutral, meaning that you want to make sure there are not any cultural um
Unique identifiers that will
there
say
we go. Yes, yes. Give me the word. Give me the word, because I'm struggling over here. Yes, no unique identifiers. You want to make sure it is neutral, very vanilla. Okay.
absolutely. And so
No.
let's talk about that in the context of, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys 5 topics in 5 areas that we can do to close the wealth gap. Because
Okay.
what we've done right now is we've given you a high level understanding of what's the wealth gap, what's the difference between wealth and income, but we didn't actually give you the meat and potatoes and
Okay.
actually tell you what to do with all the things we just said. And
Yes.
so we'll take a little bit of a deeper dive, but before we do that, I want to let you guys know that wealth has to have speed to it at this point. We're in 2025 and we are already behind.
Okay.
So there's a sense of urgency that we don't have right now that
Got
everyone should have,
okay.
because we are progressing. Years are going by and they're going by fast. And
Mhm.
so we're already in, what is this, April? We just set New Year's resolution yesterday. I'm sure I just wrote
It
my
feels
vision
like
down.
it
I
feels
just
like it.
I just did my vision board. I know it was January yesterday for sure.
My Lord.
However, We just have to understand that time is not waiting for anyone. And
Yeah.
because we're already behind, we have to put a sense of urgency to what we're doing and
Mm,
some intention. We have to be intentional about our choices. We have to be intentional about our wealth. And it's okay to, I love to explain this concept because it's not supposed to be so tight and rigid.
mhm,
I'm not asking you to give up all of the things you love. I'm not asking you to give up all of your trips to the Bahamas. You guys take me with you. My passport is ready. I'm simply asking you to do one thing this year for yourself, for your community, and for your generation that will help you change the trajectory of your life.
okay.
So we don't have another year to waste and do nothing. And we also don't have another year to complain. Okay.
We don't.
So I want to go ahead and throw that out there. If that was an ouch moment, I apologize. Put it in the chat. I still love you. Okay. I want us to stop complaining about this wealth gap and actually do something about it. And
Okay.
so, in the conversation that we were just having about ownership, ownership is power when it comes to building wealth. Okay.
Mm,
So, land is one of those things that God is not making any more of.
mm,
Okay. So, once you can grab a piece of it, you can own it and you can steward it properly through your taxation benefits, through paying your property taxes, and also putting something on the land that's of value. So
mm,
when you get a piece of land, you don't always have to consider putting a home on it. What about a duplex? What is
mhm,
something that can bring you passive and residual income into your home? And it
mhm,
doesn't always have to be the place where you live and you stay. And so when it comes to the appraisal process, which is what Nicole was talking about earlier, we had a conversation because there are appraisal inequalities that happen through home ownership. If
mhm,
you're trying to sell your home and you're getting an appraisal, what is recommended, you like that word, is recommended, is that
mhm,
you take out all the unique identifiers in your home so that when the appraiser comes, he or she can't identify who lives in the home.
mhm,
Therefore, you will get a fair appraisal.
mhm,
Now, we know that it should be fair regardless of our unique identifiers, all the things in our homes, but there's an inequality there. And there are a lot of statistics and actual experiences that people have experienced and they have documented on social media, on podcasts. It's a lot of stories
yeah.
that will tell you if they see things that resemble African American culture, African American history, their appraisals are down significantly. And so
Mm,
while I don't have that exact statistic tonight, I encourage you guys to look it up because it is a real statistic.
mhm,
And you can lose money on the value of your home just based on the unique identifiers that come. And so take out everything, put everything in the storage, put it back to its base level, and also seek out multiple appraisers.
mm.
It's okay to get a second opinion. Now, I think that's a life lesson for all of these things.
It
It's
is.
okay to get a second opinion and it's okay to go with someone else, but it has to be an expert. So if you're not satisfied with the information that you're giving, it's okay to go in and seek another opinion from someone else.
Mhm. So I want to pause and ask the viewers if they were aware of what Shinobi is talking about in terms of maybe unfair appraisals or appraisals that have been biased, where maybe a house very comparable to yours in the area may have gotten appraised for a higher value, but or someone that you know of. But that a secondary house that that had some identifiers in it did not get appraised at a higher value. So that's my question. Are you all aware of that? That again, I am, because that's something that I've heard of for many years in the housing industry, because I work in the housing industry. But just curious as to whether or not the viewers have. And if you have, just let us know in the chat with a thumbs up or an okay or something. Because I think, people probably just don't think of that sort of stuff. You
Hmm.
know, just like, it's my home. So, yes, I'm gonna have pictures of my family, my black family. Yeah, have, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, you're not automatically assuming that you have to take down the picture of your grandchild because your beautiful grandchild on the wall would decrease your value significantly.
mm,
However, it is a real inequality. And if you can't do that, then what is best to do next is to go with someone who is within your race. There are a lot of African American appraisers out there who already know that this is an inequality, and they will do their best to give you a fair assessment. And
Mm,
so that's what I mean by getting a second opinion. Sometimes you have to do your research. Even if that's not afforded to you in your city, if it's a surrounding city, it's almost worth paying them to come in so
mm.
that they can do an appraisal and place the value of your home at an equitable rate.
No, very good point. All right, so folks are saying yes, they are aware. So good. I'm glad we are talking to an informed group. Robbie said yes, even on Zillow has inequalities. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. So, listen, we are at about halfway through the conversation. Boy, I'm telling you, it's just zooming right on by. But for those of you who may be just tuning in, we are talking the wealth gap and financial empowerment. And I'm on with Shanova Paul, who again is no stranger to conversations with Nicole. And so we've been talking about where the wealth gap kind of shows up with salaries, with homes and land, banking, taxation, education, and more specifically, we were talking about home appraisals, right? And then also, if you're going to have folks coming in to see the property, right, you want to also make sure it's neutral, right?
Yes.
So that you'll have more offers, right?
Yes.
Right? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. All right. So some folks are chiming in. We got Seta Barnhart on with us. Thank you, Seta, for being here. She said, would it be worth hiring a stager if you are trying to sell? We are aware, especially in the rural communities.
And so I have a few realtor friends who are on, and I hope I do them justice in this answer because I've asked this question.
Okay.
Yes, it is worth it. It depends on the value of your home. And so
Mm,
you don't want to hire stagers if the staging is going to cost more than some of the value that you'll get back. And
mm,
so, yes, if you have a home that may be valued a little more than what we would call our basic single family homes, and you can afford to do that so that you can get a higher selling price, then yes, that is something that we would suggest.
mm,
However, if you are someone who is trying to do a quick sale or you're trying to sell your home just because of an estate reason or someone's passing away, it may be money that you don't want to invest into the money. You may want to take the money from the staging and actually do a renovation that can increase the home value. And
mm.
so stagers are expensive. And
Okay.
they are, some of them can be very expensive because they're going to stage your home like HGTV and it's going to look amazing.
Mm,
However, to pay them, you may be able to add something that will increase the actual value. So you can increase the structural, you can add a room, you can add a backsplash, you can do some renovations that will be something that they can have tangible when they leave, and that will also increase your value of selling the home.
okay. So Edwina asks, what's the cost of hiring a stager?
Now, so that's a little bit above my pay grade. I don't quite have the answer.
Okay,
So
that's fine.
we would
That's
have to ask one of our realtor friends for that.
yes.
I haven't worked with a stager personally, so I don't know the exact amount.
Mhm.
However, with my realtor friends, they have specified that it can get quite pricey, and it depends on if they're staging a room or if they're staging your whole entire home. And
Right.
so that question is a little bit subjective. If they want to do the whole house, then we know that's going to come at a different value.
Okay. Said, thank you. So my mom said, yes, I've been looking at TV shows where buyers are looking for homes. So she's saying basically that she's seen that where there's been some maybe bias or disparity or or maybe they have taken down some things to make the house more neutral. Um, okay. So that's just one.
Yeah,
One.
and so that's one thing that we can do is we can invest in home ownership. And so I'm not going to harp on the topic for too much longer, but I
Yes, yes,
want
yes.
to tell everybody to, if you are, if you currently don't own a home, take advantage of the programs that are around you. And
Mm-hmm.
so there are programs that are still available. Get them while they last because some of them are phasing out slowly, but you want to go ahead and just see what your numbers are. A lot of us don't go into home ownership because we don't want to face our debt, we don't want to face our credit. And we know that those are the first things that they will pull when you're starting to do the home buying process.
Right.
However, you won't know what you're able to afford or not able to afford until you actually go and speak with a lender or
Mm,
speak with someone like myself, because I will be able to tell you quickly based on your habits, your debt, and your credit score if this is the best time for you to go into that process. So,
right.
if you have those questions and whether or not you should own, it is the first thing that we really should do, though. We should try to own some level of a home, and it doesn't have to be the one that you stay in. If you have individuals who are going to college, like my son, the next investment should be purchasing a duplex where they can stay on one side, they can rent out the other side, and that is passive income for you. And
Mm,
so don't always think of your first home, but
mm,
home ownership is a way to quickly reduce the wealth gap because it's a tangible thing that you can own and
yeah.
pass it.
Okay.
And so one of the other things, because they are five, and I'm going to list the five in case we run out of time, so you guys will
Okay.
have them.
Yes.
One way to close the wealth gap is just through information. There's a lot of information, and sometimes the information is not correct. So TikTok and Instagram are great tools. However, they are not always the accurate way in which you do things due to consumer lending and consumer laws. You
Mm,
want to watch the information that you're consuming every day, and actually speak with an expert in the field. And
okay.
the expert doesn't always have to be someone that has an educational background or someone that went to college, but they should have all of the rules and all of the laws in their mind when they're presenting you with information and not just their personal experience. And
Okay.
so the first thing you want to do to close the gap is get as much information as you can. As much information on investments, if you're not familiar with that. As much information as you can on how to be a homeowner, how to do investments, and just consume yourself with the basics. But
Mm,
the first things that you should start with are the five pillars of my company. It's still hands down. You have to know your budgeting. You have to know about your mindset and your organization. And you really want to know your numbers as it relates to debt management. And so once you have that information, all of the other things that we're going to talk about, that would afford you the opportunity to do those things.
okay.
And so information is the first thing. The second thing is ownership through home ownership and through real estate. The third thing is breaking the financial cycles. And so we are in a cycle from generational things. And Nicole on Mindset Monday have a lot of amazing speakers who speak to childhood trauma and the traumas that you experience through your workplace and all of the things that's happening in your mind. We have to break those cycles
Yeah.
because they are significantly slowing our progress down because
Mm,
we're just tired. There's no other way to describe it. We're tired,
mm,
we're fatigued, and when we are in those spaces, we can't make the choices that we need to make with the
mm, mm,
speed that requires for this gap to be
yeah.
closed. The next thing is we have to think about investments. So investments is the like the next quickest way after real estate to compound and build on your money. But it's also the subject matters that African Americans stay away from the most.
It's scary.
It is scary. It is scary. And that's why we need to be able to get with individuals who are like minded, like myself, who are nerds, who like to talk about investments, but so that I can provide you guys with a quick analogy. Like Johnny went down the street and came back with the two apples and the three apples. And you like, I got it. Put my $5 in. Okay. I want $5 on this one. And so it's a topic that it is scary, but there is so much information out there now that breaks it down to the most simplistic form. And there are ways in which you can moderately invest. It doesn't have to be aggressive. You don't have to go in with $20,000 and hopes to make 100,000 from it. Start with $5. Start with $10. Start
Okay.
with the type of investments that actually you can see. So investments are not always stocks. We
Right.
have to understand that investments can be in your 401k. If
Mm,
you are employed and you're with an employer and they are providing you with a 401k, you should 100% match their dollar amount.
mm,
And you should max out your 401k so that you can have retirement, which is what Nicole was talking about from her seminar today. You have to have some level of retirement
yeah.
when you are getting ready to sit down somewhere. Okay, as my mom would say. But you have some investments through 401k, you have investments through certain stock, And then you also can invest in yourself. You have to invest in your ability to retain and have the knowledge that you need to make the choices.
Yeah.
And that's an investment by itself.
Okay.
And so the next thing is the power of entrepreneurship.
So
Everyone should have a side hustle. If you
okay.
don't have a side hustle, your main hustle of your 9 to 5 should pay your bills and have a little bit for your legacy. If that's not the case, side hustle it is.
Okay.
And so we want to make sure that we don't shy away from all of the many skills that we have. If the pandemic taught us anything, is that we can take a thought, we can put it on paper, and then we can have a business tomorrow.
Yes, we can.
And so you have to think about what is it that you like to do. If it is you're the best baker in your family, then you should have cupcakes readily available on Saturday morning at the markets because they
Right.
have a lot of events happening here in Tallahassee. And I know some of you are in other states and cities, but there's always an opportunity to make more money.
Mm,
And we just want to make sure that we are starting sustainable business that are built on solid foundations. And
yes.
so I want to be clear. I'm asking you to start a legitimate LLC business so that you can then hire someone and decrease the wealth gap because the salary inequalities between men and women and our white counterparts is going to be hard to change them, but they can be changed with what we talked about earlier. You knowing
Mhm.
your worth, knowing
Right.
your skill set, and asking for what you deserve.
Right.
However, those systems are so rooted that it's going to take more time to uproot them than it would be for us to just go and build another foundation for us to thrive in. And
Gotcha.
so entrepreneurship. And then the last thing is to do a crowdfunding.
So hold on, hold on. We got a lot of comments.
Oh, hey y'all. I'm so sorry. Go, go, go.
Too far. Vanessa Mim Smith, great
Oh,
information,
hey, Auntie.
niece. So auntie loves you in New Jersey. She said my niece has all the information you need. Please contact her. So she's giving you a shout out. Seta is saying yes, cycles must be broken. I agree. And
Mhm.
yes, on investments and life insurance as a simple tool.
Yeah.
All right. So Seta is a huge proponent of that. She's let's see. Hold on. She said, yes, we can. Woman in ag plus. So she's in agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. All right. And then Robbie is our note taker. I love it. So thank you for the notes because I'm taking them, but just not in the chat. So yes, number one, information. Number two, ownership through real estate. Three, breaking cycles and changing mindset. Four, investments to compound on your money. And five, power of entrepreneurship, aka side hustle. Hustle. Love it. All right.
Yes.
Yes, and Vanessa said side hustle indeed. All right, very good. Okay, so what was the last thing?
The last thing is really combining our efforts, right? And so some would call it crowdfunding with
Okay.
your group of like minded individuals. And that concept can really work. And to explain kind of what it is, it's the process of kind of raising money with a large number of people. And
Okay.
the way that it can work is that you guys put legal paperwork in place so that when the emotions take over, the funding still works and the vision is still there.
Mm,
However, if you have someone in there stating that they would like to buy a duplex or a multi-level apartment complex and they only have half of the money and you have the other half, it's
mm,
okay to combine your income and combine your visions and your dreams to
yeah.
make this a reality. The only thing that you have to worry about in those type of situations is just being clear.
Mhm.
Oftentimes, because this is a conversation that we don't have enough as African Americans, we oftentimes let the emotion side kick in and the information sometimes is lost in translation. So if you're going to seek the last option, which is working with friends or like-minded business partners, it
Mm,
doesn't matter how close you are, family included, everything needs to be written down. The
mhm.
vision needs to be clear. It needs to be clearly stated who's going to get what and what happens with all of the legalities need to take place. And then the vision can flourish and it can happen because what
Yeah.
that simply means is no matter what happens and who taps in or tap out, the dream and the vision that you had to move forward, it will still happen. It'll still go forward.
Yeah, no, that's good. So, many of you may have heard of what I grew up hearing about is susus. And
Mhm.
so susus, so just for easy math, you have 12 people that are in this group. Each person is given $100 a month. The first month, I get all of the money. The next month, Shanovia gets all of the money, and so on and so forth, right? And
Right.
so, you when I get the money, I can use it for whatever, but I am contributing back to the pot because others will be getting the money every month after that. So, but you are talking about crowdfunding that is more formalized from the standpoint of putting it in writing and having a clear vision about what's going to be taking place, who's going to be getting what, when, and so on and so forth. Correct?
Yes, and because crowdfunding is more for venture capital type projects. It's for the big dreams, it's for the big goals. And
Mm,
not to say that it can't be used on a smaller scale for maybe to what you just experienced. Like if let's just say 12 moms get together and our kids are staggered and we're all want to send them to college with a certain amount of money,
mhm.
then you're giving into this fund, but it's
Right.
not a short-term fix.
Mm,
Crowdfunding happens over time and it's something that you have to build on.
mm,
So while Susu groups will allow you to take the money out every month, crowdfunding will give large amounts of money and they will do it for the same period of time. Like, so for 4 to 5 years. So from 3 to 5 years, let's just take that as a small goal. We're
mhm,
all going to give this amount of money annually so that we can get to the bigger projects that will hold us back in the inequalities.
mm,
Typically, what we have to understand is that we have to have money in order to get into certain spaces. And
mhm,
in order to do that, we have to implement the small habits. We have to have discipline. We have to be able to save. And we have to be able to understand what it is that we want.
yeah.
Typically, when it comes to this wealth gap, and the reason why it's not closing as quickly as we would like to is because we're all grasping for so many different things. And
Mm,
so, similar to the boycott, we'll just take Target as an example. When
mm,
everybody said, we're not going to Target, now we're experiencing news podcasts about it. They're talking about their numbers that are decreasing. It's important for us to do one thing together and collectively. And that's not every individual on this call, that's everyone in your bloodline. So
mm,
if our family mission this year, and family extending past your immediate family into your friendship circles, if
mm,
we're going to focus on building as many homeowners as we can in 2025, that's
mm,
our marching orders. That's our charge, and we're
mm,
all going to focus on that. And so if we have a relative and they are $50 short from getting their appraisal done, someone's going to help them get the appraisal done. If
mhm,
they need $20,000 down for their deposit and they're $2,000 short, the family, the friends collectively will come together to get them in their home. And that's
mm.
not to say that once they get there that they may not pay us back or all of those things, but typically we have to stop trying to do it individually and settle this together and make a massive charge so that the community can see a bigger result.
Whew, yeah, you have said quite a bit there. I'm going to acknowledge some folks. We got Dr. Asha, who is in the house, who is in the Bay Area, and that is California Bay Area. She said, "Did somebody say something about crowdfunding to decrease the cost of eggs?"
I,
I'm just trying to
I stand behind it.
thank you for being here, Dr. Asha. Miss you, BDT. Auntie Vanessa, yes, we will. God is good. All right. Seta, that's a good point. All right. And we got Mr. John White in the house. Duval, thank you for being here. Miss Squeaky Miller, who is here in Tallahassee. So, all right. So we got some marching orders. We really do. We got a lot we gotta do. But don't get overwhelmed by it all, right?
Please don't
So
get overwhelmed.
So, I mean, we talked about how wealth gap shows up, how to close the wealth gap, but what would be your recommendation on how to kind of go about tackling some of this? Because again, it can seem like it's a lot that we have to chew.
And that's a good question. And it boils down to where you are in your life, right?
Okay.
And so individually, if you're a person who have avoided your finances for a number of reasons. It can be financial trauma. It can be because you don't want to know truly where you stand. Your first step is to just get an understanding, get
Okay.
your numbers and get clear. If
Okay.
you are an individual who took some time and now you're clear, you know what your numbers are, and you think that the next step for you, you can go on a branch. Your next step may be, I want to go ahead and start in the investment round. So
Mm,
I know my numbers. I want to meet with a financial expert. I want to sit down to see if I have $100 this month, what is the best use of my $100, and allow them to give me some type of guidance into where to put the money. That's your next step. Because
mm,
not everyone technically wants to own a home right now. And so,
mhm,
yes, we push home ownership and we want that to be our next step. However, home ownership comes with maintenance and bills and
mhm,
lawn care. And if
mhm,
that's not what you're ready for, you don't want to go on that branch. And
mhm.
so you have to really sit and identify where you are as a person. But everybody's first step is, if you're confused, caution of your Monique. Just call me, let me help you, because it's hard to identify where everybody's starting point should be
Mhm.
without truly sitting down and knowing where your numbers are and where you stand.
Well, I think I mean, that whole understanding your numbers, that is the first thing,
That's the
really.
first thing. Hmm.
Um, and then, like you said, I think number two is, meeting with a financial expert, seeing what some of your options are, especially if you're finding that, okay, once I take care of my needs, I have some kind of residual income, if you will, or income that's not being allocated towards something else. And I'm talking like post, emergency funds, being established, some savings being established, and you have some extra money left over. Like, so what am I doing with this? Am I you know, investing in real estate? Am I
Absolutely.
something with stocks? Am I doing something with insurance? What are we doing? So yes, meeting with a financial expert, and that might be some different financial experts, because maybe not one financial expert will be able to address all of the many
Oh,
vehicles that are
absolutely.
out
I
there,
strongly encourage everybody to have a money team.
right?
And
Okay,
so have a
there
money
we
team.
go.
I,
Money.
I am I am the expert in all of the things that you would need to begin. I will gladly hand you off to the tax professionals, as that is just something that I want you to get the maximum benefit for. You should
Okay.
also have someone that specializes in estate planning. You
Mm,
don't want to go to the tax person for the estate rules.
okay.
Sometimes they can have a crossover, but because they don't do it all day long, is not what they're solely focusing on. They still may miss some of the benefits in between. And so you definitely want to build a money team
Mm-hmm.
to go
Nice.
to people for different things.
Okay. So I'm even though there's no number by that, I'm putting that on the list. Build a money team.
Yes, build a money team.
Okay. Look, I want to know how many of y'all out there got a money team. Let me know. I guess I do. I just never really thought of it as that, but I do. I have a few people for different things, so I like that.
And when you're building your money team, it's important to not let your money team cross, because we can have the same background, the same education, but the way in which we would direct you to implement the information that we're giving you may be significantly different. And
Mm,
so you don't want to have two individuals who's talking to you about budgets unless they work in the same office or
got
unless they're under the same umbrella. And so you definitely want to vet all of your money team. It's okay, you guys, to ask your money team to prove why they're their expert. If they get mad or they don't want to prove it, then that proves to you that they may not be the expert they say they are.
mm.
It's
Hello.
okay to ask questions. Ask questions, and it's not to be rude. It's not to ask them to show me your tax return or show me your credit score. But because of the enhancements with AI and Chat GPT and some of the other platforms that will allow them to spit information at you, they can
Mm,
spit a lot of information. But the actual application of it, that's where you'll determine who's your expert.
Interesting. Okay. So folks are chiming in. Robbie said, I have a money team.
Mhm.
Shinobi said, Siobhan said Shinobi is on my money team.
Yes, I am, ma'am.
Love it. All right. Let's see. Edwina, great conversation. Thank you for the information. You are welcome. Dr. Ostrich, financial trauma. That's an interesting concept. Yes, it is. And it's a real thing.
Yes,
Uh,
it's definitely a real thing.
yes. Asha said, above all, thy getting, get understanding. Amen. Absolutely.
Amen.
Ma'am. Casey, great conversation. This is so true. It depends on the person's past, present, and future. Knowledge is power. Power, absolutely. And then Robbie, my note taker tonight, crowdfunding, like-minded people, legal paperwork for the vision to prosper, no matter who comes and goes.
Yep.
Absolutely, absolutely. Whew, all right. So again, I feel like we just scratched the surface, but we did go just a little bit deeper on some of it. And we're going to give you some resources to help get you started in case you feel like, I don't know where to go or where to turn. So, if you will, Shanovia, please give us some closing remarks and tell folks how folks can connect with you.
So you can connect with me personally on all social media platforms at Shanova Monique. That is SHA. Oh, it's scrolling at the bottom because typically I have to spell it. But you can find me on social media at Shanova Monique. You can also reach out to me to do a discovery call so that we can talk about your numbers specifically and how we can help with the 5 pillars that our company focus on, which is budgeting, savings, debt management, and financial mindset and financial organization. And so, if you're just looking to get started on your journey, that is the best way to get started. If you are a business owner and you'll be in Tallahassee this weekend, I am doing a joint collaborative brunch with an amazing group of women from Boss Women International. So, we will be at the Edison on Saturday. And we're doing an amazing brunch called Brand Your Worth. And we're going to talk about some of these concepts as it relates to being an entrepreneur. Me personally, I will be leading the financial portion of the conversation, and we'll talk about how to pay yourself as a single member LLC, what financial tools you need to get started, and a number of the real meaning of what it means to brand yourself. And so that's how you present and position yourself for the actual financial success. And so this is like an intimate brunch. I think last time I checked with my co-founders of Boss Women International, we are about 8 tickets left and they are on sale through Thursday. And so if you want to be in the room to get some more information as it relates to your entrepreneurship journey and your personal finances, I need you to run, don't walk. Okay. Because the tickets are going fast. And if you are interested in all the things that relate to home ownership, I strongly encourage that you guys reach out to myself and Nicole as we have amazing resources here in Tallahassee with some amazing realtors and estate planners who are doing some amazing things.
Absolutely. So, thank you for that. Great information. And please connect with her, y'all. She has the most interesting posts that are quaint and cute and get the point across in a quick and easy way. So, I enjoy checking out your social media. And so, y'all follow her, connect with her, especially if you don't have a money team and you want to
Yeah.
build one. So I love that. All right. So Siobhan said, yes, run to Eventbrite. I got my ticket. Love it, love it, love it. All right. And Dr. Asha, thank you for the tips. You are so very welcome. So again, that event is going to be this coming Saturday. Um, at what time again?
At
11?
11 a.m.
11 a.m. The Edison tickets are $25.
Yes.
Okay, and it looks like it's going to be great. I have a conflict, otherwise I would be there, but it's going to be a lot of fun. What's the name, the title of the event?
It's Brand Your Worth. And so while I'm doing the financial piece, we will also be talking about the marketing strategies that you need for your business in order to build your funnels and build all of your things that you need for your entrepreneurship journey into me as to how you can now keep what you've built into Siobhan and the other hosts that will be there. And as we're talking about how do you now safeguard it through all of the legal ways, right? How do you put it in a trademark? How do we keep it where it needs to be? And so we give you guys the full spectrum from an idea and a concept to how to make the money to how to keep the money. So, you know, if you're just looking for an amazing, amazing time to get dressed, I know a lot of us, it's spring, we want to put on our cute dress, we want to get our hair done. Get dressed, grab a friend, and then let's build a money team and do what we need to do to close the wealth gap through information.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, April is Financial Literacy Month. So, what a great way to celebrate financial literacy with this great event. Lots of events taking place this week. There's a
Yes.
fair housing symposium taking place on Wednesday at the Delta Kappa Omega Providence Center here in Tallahassee on Highland Road, and that's going to
Mhm.
be from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. It's free. There'll be a number of housing professionals available, as well as folks that deal specifically in fair housing and housing discrimination. So you don't want to miss that. You can register for that on the city's website, talgov.com, and go to the fair housing on there. And they actually will be providing a light breakfast and lunch for that event. And there's also a virtual option. I will be emceeing that event too. So you definitely want to come and be a part of that. There is also, and this conflicts with Saturday's event, but there's also another housing event taking place on Saturday at FAMU DRS. NARAB, the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, is having Danielle Andrews and Daryl Wills, who both are part of NARAB here in Tallahassee, will be helping to facilitate that. But that'll be at 9:30 a.m. at FAMU DRS. Habitat will have a table there. Both Danielle and Daryl will be on my show on Wednesday. So you can tune in on Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. and we'll be talking about generational wealth building via real estate specifically. So just kind of doubling down on that topic. So with all of that said, I want to thank you so much, Shanova, for coming on and being part of the conversation once again. I really do appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to come back.
My pleasure. We got to make that happen soon. For those of you who are new to the Conversations with Nicole platform, I invite you to subscribe to Conversations with Nicole. We're here Mondays and Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Focus on connecting the community through conversations. And like my friend Marcus Boston in Tampa said, like and subscribe, like and subscribe. Yes, the focus is primarily on mental health and wellness. This is financial wellness that we talked about today. So it definitely falls in line with what we are all about here. So check us out, subscribe, go to the YouTube channel, subscribing and supporting, and we need all the support we can get. All right. So my mom, what did mom say? Amen, amen, amen. Do you travel south? My mom wants you to come to Miami. See.
I will actually be in Miami in August. And so, yes, I travel south. Some of my amazing sisters are down there. So, whenever you're ready, Mama, I'll be there.
But don't play because she'll meet you, child. She'll meet you where you are down there, okay? I love it. All right, Mom. We'll have to get you Shanovia's information. All right. Auntie said, always remember dreams will come true, and my niece can help you get there. God is good. All right. You gotta go and cheer your niece on, Auntie.
Okay.
I love it. I love it. We got Dr. Chris Daniels on with us. Great combo. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate you so much. All right, good people. We're not gonna belabor this, but let's close this wealth gap. Let's close this
Please,
wealth gap. We
please.
can do it. We can do it. We can do it. We've already talked about some of the tools, but we can do it. And if you don't know how to do it, connect with Shanova. I'm gonna put her information up one more again. Please reach out. She does consultations, but get the help you need so you can close that wealth gap. All right.
All
All
right.
right, y'all. Have a great rest of the evening, and we'll see y'all next time. Peace.